A-50DA-K amplifier. The dash K at the end is to say it's black. Beautiful condition. This one, apparently the seller hasn't tried to repair it. It's got an issue where it's turning on but there's absolutely no sound, and it's not triggering any of the protection circuits, which would be indicated by a flashing of the standby light here. So on first visual inspection, this thing looks beautiful. It's just like so shiny back here as well. Everything looks in very good condition, no scratches on it whatsoever. One of the first things I want to figure out is, look, has someone already taken a crack at this or not? So looking at the screw heads, it's hard to say, but then you look at this one over here. This one doesn't look like it's in properly. It's kind of uneven, which yeah, it's a bit of a maybe hard to capture that, but it's in kind of diagonally, which I don't know if a Pioneer assembly person would not put that in straight. So we'll see if it's cross-threaded or something. Maybe someone's already been in here to have a look. Can't wait to get it open. So next thing, I'm going to power it on and just see if I can replicate the fault issue. So I might plug in some speakers and a source. Okay, so I've turned it on, and the first thing that's happened here is we're getting a red standby light. Let's see what happens. Turn that. Okay, so the standby light comes off, which you'd expect, but nothing has lit up here. Well, that's interesting. Oh, beautiful knobs. Yeah, no lights at all. So back in standby. Oh, there we go. Okay. I can hear a bit of a humming, and we've got a light on here. Line in. Oh, another click, and speaker A came on. Standby's gone green. Okay, well, I'm going to plug in some speakers and see what happens. Alright, so I've plugged in one of my little edifier speakers. Got a pair of these off Amazon for $60, about half price. That's going into channel A. It seemed like good value at the time, but somehow it got me hooked on all this audio and costed me lots of money in the coming months. We're buying more equipment. So now I'm running the input in the CD to an old iPhone, just playing some stuff here. So I've selected SA CD input here, and look, selected A speaker here. Balance, I'll make sure that's in the middle, but treble, don't need loudness at the moment. Bass, put that in the middle. Back on direct. Yeah, just okay. Nothing coming through. No noise. Ooh. Wow, that's max volume. Wow, that's interesting. It's like some crosstalk coming through or something. But yeah, definitely the right input. We'll get power amp direct. Does that help? Nothing. Nothing, that's strange. Okay, I don't know what power amp direct means. It probably gets rid of preamps and stuff. Well, what does it mean that direct doesn't? I don't know, I'll turn that off as well. Blasting it up. Yeah, you can hear the noise come through, very distorted. Okay, let's try the other channel. So now we're going back here. I'm going to plug it into... Now, isn't that funny? These all have plugs in them. I plugged straight into here because this one had no little black plugs in the end. But all the other ones do. That's maybe that's a clue. Maybe this is the bad channel. So I'll also try a B selector, and also try, of course, the right channel as well. So we'll do that next. Okay, now I've got the speaker connected to B. Oh, this is both. I'll just turn off A and got B on. So let's move across to just the top ones, which are now, you'll see there, still left channel, but now we're looking at the B output. Ramp that up. It takes a while and then it starts making noise. I'll turn it up down. I'll turn it up now, real quick. Ready? And then we wait. It starts to get louder. That's weird. Maybe that's just a volume setting thing to save you from scaring yourself when you turn it up. I don't know. I'll change to right channel now. See what happens there. So now, anyway, I'm in the right channel, back in A. So go across to A selector, there, turn off B, and blast it. Gradually ramps up. Anyway, same issue, so both channels. So I might fiddle around with some settings like loudness. It's not really going to do anything direct. I think direct, oh see, direct doesn't go through any of these selectors here on the amp direct, so there must be an input directly to the amp on the back here. I'll try figure out which one that is and plug into there. Okay, that was pretty easy. There's one called Power Amp Direct. So there we are, no preamps or anything. Probably won't have any loudness control. We're just going direct now to none of these inputs. It's running, I'll turn her up again. Nothing now. Oh wait, we're still on B, but I want to be on A, so I'll turn that all the way down. Go to A. Turn it up. There is some noise there. It's just a quiet passage, I think. Yeah. So, same thing. Running straight into the power amp, nothing coming out. So that pretty much says the preamp's probably fine. It's going to be power amp, which is scary because this is the Class D, but both channels are doing it. So hopefully it's not the tricky modules. We'll find out what's going on. Take it apart. Behold, now this is quite beautiful on the inside. Reasonably small power transformer compared to all the home theater things I've been pulling apart lately, but it's Class D, so it's very efficient, doesn't need a giant transformer. Beautiful Pioneer branded capacitors. They are 10,000 UF each at 80 volts. This is all live, so I'm being a little careful not to touch in here. You know, there's a beautiful looking fuse there. You can't see very easily, but it's not broken. You know, I wish it was. That would be an easy fix. And yeah, so here's the Class D amplifier module here on the carrier board. So here's all power supply. Got some bridge rectifiers here. Regulators, linear regulators, going to power some circuitry. Yeah, those are the main rails there. Another regulator there for something. Yeah, all of these look good. Can't see any like bulging tops. This thing's only new. It was built in 2016, I think. Well, that's when it was introduced. It could be even newer than that. It's 2022 at the moment, so yeah, all those caps are looking good as well. And the output resistors here, these power resistors, no signs of, whoops, there you go, no signs of overheating or anything there or there. Yeah, okay. I can feel some heat coming out of it. I don't touch anything, but yeah, maybe a bit of heat there. Yeah, definitely a little bit of heat in these regulators here. But yeah, a bit of heat coming out of there too, so yeah. This is all the input mixing. Yeah, so I figure there's going to be an interface between these boards. Now, I'm going to cheat because before I bought this beautiful piece of gear, I checked online that I could get a service manual for it, and I can't get the A-50DA, but I can get the A-50 and A-70 service manual, and the difference was the DA has this DAC built in, so it seems to be on a separate circuit board anyway to say like the inputs and mixing and everything that would be on the bog standard model. So hopefully the service manual translates across, because the issue obviously isn't with the DAC. So I'll break that out and start going through the troubleshooting there. Okay, so here is the troubleshooting diagram. I had a little stuff up here running through all these things, not realizing that yes is solid, no is dots. So no sound, yes, there's no sound. Is power supply turned on? Hell yeah, there is. And that was going through this process here of turning it on and using the remote control, and so there's no sound, all inputs. Well, let's there's not much choice here, but I've already tested direct and I've tested the CD input, so let's just assume now that that's the case. Okay, now we're getting into the weird section. Does the protection relay click, and is it turned on after the power supply is turned on? Well, let's go back here, turn it off again, and listen. There's a lot of clicking there, and especially one of them did come from this little relay down here, so I'm going to turn it on, and straight away I heard that clicking back there. And then we're going to wait and wait and wait, and it's going to turn some things on and click out here too when the speakers go ready. There, click, and I could hear that coming from back here. So look, yeah, the main relay is turning on. Is the supply turning on? Well, this relay little here, so this is a little backup relay that runs all the low voltage circuitry, that's standby stuff. This relay here, I believe, is flicking on the main transformer, and I'm just measuring the output voltage here. 64 volts, that's the main rail. So I'm pretty confident that that's a yes, and we have to keep scrolling down here. We go to section A, and here is section A. Oh, now we're getting into some really weird stuff. Is there residual waveform of the switching on speaker out terminal? Like, why would there be a waveform on the speaker output terminal? Like a residual, maybe that they mean when it's flicking on or something. So I'll get out my little oscilloscope and see what happens there. And they're saying it's going to be 420 kilohertz, 1.5 volts. Well, I'm going to look for that. Check it out. I hooked up the speaker, changed it out and ran it to my little portable oscilloscope here. And what are we getting? It says, if I can get rid of the glare, 377 kilohertz. That's pretty close to 420. And voltage here, 1.7 volts, 1.8, which is pretty close to 1.5. Like, wow, okay, that's weird. Then, okay, yeah, we do have a residual waveform happening. So we go down here. Is there output at rec out terminal after selecting the input line? Well, rec out terminal, so after selecting the input line. Well, okay, we're gonna have to check out here the output for recording and see what's going on there. So I think what we're trying to figure out here is there a signal, like a line signal coming out of the recording outputs? The way you can test this with the oscilloscope. Instead, I've run my own, it's a pretty unique cable. It runs from the RCA, and I'm running that straight into the speaker. And you can't really drive a loud signal this way, but it's enough to listen and see if it's clear. So have a listen. Sounds fine. It's all clear. It's not muffled and clipping like before. It's very quiet. I'd say that's working just fine as a line level signal. So is there an output? Yeah, there is. Okay, well, is there output at input signal to the power amp direct? It's hopefully going to tell me where to measure that by trying to work out basically, okay, well, the preamp seems to be working. Is it sending that good signal into the power amp? Okay, I think I know what they're trying to say here. Like, is there an output at the input signal to the power amp direct? Well, here's power amp direct, right? Up here, power amp direct. So basically, if I'm feeding something into SACD, is it coming back out at the input signal, like at this terminal? I think they're asking, because the switcher basically just routes all of that to the input of the power amp, where this is probably directly wired, given the name. So hypothetically, if the switch is working properly, it should be giving noise here. And the funny thing is, it ain't. It's dead silent here. So that's a no. Is there output at the input signal? No, there's not. So now we're going to go down. Okay, is there a signal at connector 4200 pin 13? Connector 4200 pin 13. Okay, now I'm probably going to have to stop using a speaker and use the oscilloscope to measure these. So what's connector 4200? Select that, copy, find, paste. Go, it's used in a lot of places. Yeah, oh, it's up there, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of pins there. Pin number 13, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to count through them and work it out. Where else are we? Down there, that's the other side of it. Pin 13, what is pin 13 of connector 4200 is this one here. pre-out left plus, that's called there, pin 13, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's find out. Okay, so this one was a bit hard to show while I was measuring, but I counted down from down to 13 and 14 and 13 pins basically here. We wanted to measure 13. Where are we? Which is pre-out left plus, and well, relative to ground it was very negative, but relative to 14 left minus, assuming this must be a differential signal, yeah, there was nothing there, so I guess it's a no. So if I go back to here, is there a signal at pin 13? Well, no, there wasn't. Okay, well, let's go here. Is there a signal at IC40, 3 and 5 pins? Let's find out. Okay, so where'd I get up to yesterday? I kind of left off without filming. Basically, I started tracing things through the checklist and got to a point where I was talking about ICs on this board over here, and they didn't exist because it was no A50, and this is the A-50DA, and the A-50DA has a different board here with all the digital analog converter, but it also has a different carrier board here as well. So none of the components lined up. Like I could work out part numbers, and these two op amps here seem to correlate with what they were talking about I should be looking at, but they had different numbers, you know, identifiers, and in different locations as well, so it became pretty tricky. I'm pretty lucky because today I made a phone call through to the Pioneer support here in Australia, and they actually got back to me and sent me the service manual for this specific model, the DA. So now I can go through again, and things are very similar going through this process so far, except I think it's going to come down here. Is there output power at the signal to the power amp direct? No, there wasn't, and so that's why we come down here and say, is there a signal at this connector at pin 13? I remember there we got to that one and we said no, there wasn't a signal there. That was this little connector down here. No, that one there, I think pin 13 on there. So now we're coming across into what I've kind of circled here. Is there a signal at IC2304? Now that's different to IC40. 2304, if I look at it's in two documents now. It's here. Okay, actually I'm pretty lucky. So IC2304 that I'm searching for here, it's also on this page, and you can see exactly where it is on the board. There's, that's it there, and you've got this relay, capacitor, and the IC2304. So that's this one down here on the board. And while I'm looking around here, I can see there was a little bit of, what's going on here? That looks a bit weird, doesn't it? There's maybe something leaked out there from this capacitor, and there's maybe someone's left some crumbs in here, or maybe that's some stuff that's coming out. Another thing, I don't know if I mentioned this last night. There was a clue I found last night, and this is really doing my head in. See these two op amps where all the signal goes through. These are backwards. Like they're right here on the board. See, they got the negative marking, and there's the minus on the circuit schematic, and you can look anywhere that the negative markings on the capacitors line up with that little minus marking on the, well, kind of a fat minus marking on the footprint there. So you'd think that negative voltage would be here and positive would be on the other side, and I'll see if I can try and get a probe in. Okay, check it out. There it is there. See, minus going to minus, plus going to plus. And I've got minus 13.96 volts going through it. What the hell? How can you have minus 13 volts across the polarized capacitor? That's so wrong. This one is just as bad as well. It's like maybe someone changed the regulators and the rails are backwards or something. I don't know. And the fact that this troubleshooting is kind of pointing to this section, yeah, it says a lot that something's gone really wacky here. Okay, so there are so many ways I can do this, but I'm just gonna check here on IC2304 that it was telling me to check. Everything here is like IC2304, and one of them is gonna be check the power supply or a failure of this chip. I'm gonna go check, like 8 should be positive 13 volts, 4 should be negative 13 volts. I'm gonna figure that out on this guy here, what's going on. Yeah, okay, I was just measuring that. It was 30.31 volts. Spot on, like that's plus minus 15 rails, and they were the right way around. So I still don't know why all these capacitors are backwards. I'm going to check the schematic and see what's going on. Okay, so these guys both have 1.31 volts across them. So positive, it's not negative like these capacitors, but they've got 1.31 volts from the pin 8 down to the ground being pin number 4. That's strange. Again, both of them exactly the same. So I'll keep probing around. And those guys are, I think, let's just zoom out. So we were just looking at this one. Everything was telling us to look at these. And I'm looking at these two that feed into the relay across there. And they've only got 1 volt across them. So that's a bit strange. We're not on direct either. So I would assume that they should be running and doing something. Okay, so these two actually are different to what I thought. IC2101, for instance, being this one down here, is here. It's not where I was looking at. See, I was looking up here at these guys. It's actually down here. So this one has 1.3 volts across it, which is a bit strange. V plus seems to go, yeah, up through this resistor here. So R2157 should be 1 ohm by the look of it. Yeah, so I'm gonna bip that one out and see what's going on. R2157. Okay, so now what I've found is okay, so they're minus 13 volts, which is weird. The 15 volts is fed through from a resistor on the other side of the board that I can't get to measure. But I can measure the 15 volts coming in, and these are beautifully labeled. Here you can see that the 15 volts is on pins 16 and negative 15 is on pin 15. So measured it there, and what do you know, 1.3 volts, not plus minus 15. So okay, so I'm like, okay, well these are 15 volt regulators here, and here's a capacitors here. These have got 15 volts. I've only got 1.3 volts going out to the connector though. So it looks like maybe one of these resistors in the middle. And it'll be interesting if I do find that and test it. Okay, so I've verified that both of these capacitors on the 15 volt rail do have their 15 volts, definitely. I really want to be testing how that is getting out to this connector here, or not getting to that connector. Looking here, you got C7415 and C7414, those two guys there. And how does that power get out? Well, actually, looking at the positive, it just goes straight to the 15. There's nothing in series with it. And the negative of the minus 15 just comes across, goes straight to the 15 volt rail. Nothing there. So now we've got to look at how is the connector tied into the 15 volt rail. Maybe there's something on the other part of the schematic. If in doubt, bip it out. That's what Dave Jones always says. I have confirmed that minus goes to the minus, plus does not come through to here. Something's broken. So let me just double check. Yeah, check it out. So number 16 there should be plus 15 volts, and that also should be coming out this side of this capacitor here, the plus 15 volts. No continuity, no bipping going on. So that's where it's broken. Now I'll look at the traces of the circuit board. Hopefully I can find that over here somewhere and work out what's going on. Okay, so still trying to work out where this pin, how this pin is meant to connect up to the capacitor. I can see we actually do get the bottom side of it here. And they put these giant blocks, so I know that it's this pin here, and it goes straight in there somewhere. I don't know if it loops around it there, it connects to adjacent pins. No idea, because they got this giant block over it for no reason. That's the silk screen they've just put there, unfortunately. So at this stage, I decide I'm going to have to pull out that whole amplifier board, and I start taking some photos while I'm going through this process, just to make sure I'm going to be able to put this thing back together with all the wires in exactly the right place. Okay, really starting to narrow this down now. So pin 16 on this header, 19, 18, 17, 16, is meant to be connecting to R4291 here, which is a 1 meg that runs it down to ground, which is also pin 17. No continuity. Whereas pin 15, which is the negative rail, runs straight through to its 1 meg resistor R4292. Here's the little schematic section here. It's pretty simple. Yeah, 16. So 15, although that plus 15 there is actually it belongs to this. So you got 17 is ground, right? And goes to these 1 meg resistors, to 16, which is the plus 15 volts, and 15, which is the minus 15 volts. So yeah, the trouble is this plus 15, which is pin 16, is not connected to that resistor. And it's so hard to pull this board out. It's so tricky. I want to get underneath there and figure out what's going on with all the soldering under there. All these screws have come out and I'm able to move it, except, well, it fits in there so snug. You've got all of these little screws and things on this side that are going to bang into it. You got this volume motor pot on the front that's going to bang into it, so I can't lift out the front, and I can't twist it because all of these are going through little holes in the back, so I don't have much room to twist it sideways. And these little things are popping through the holes. They're hard to push back through, and also this whole assembly here. So it's going to take me a while. Probably have to take off the front panel just to get this board out and see what's going on underneath. So now the entire board's coming out, I take a whole lot more photos as the process is happening, every screw as I take it out, every little bit of wiring harness, just to make sure that as it goes back together, I can play all these photos back and get it all back the way it came. Okay, after about 1 billion screws and loosening off the whole front panel to move the pot down there out of the way, yeah, I got the main board out. Now I can start inspecting what's going on under here. Got it out on some pink bubble wrap. I don't know if this stuff is anti-static. I was just googling it. Yeah, they say it's anti-static. I don't know. I was just measuring the resistance. I couldn't measure a resistance, it seems. I don't know. Maybe I haven't got the right stuff. This just came with some circuit boards from China. So here's pin 16, 19, 18, 17, 16. It doesn't go to anything here. There's just nothing around it down here. It's not connected to there or any of these ones. It was all on top all along. So, oh. And now that the board is out again, I tested just one more time. That 16 is not connecting to here. 15, yeah, definitely going through there on the negative, but the 16 is not going here. And if you look at it, then the only way for this rail to get across is it kind of goes through this to ground, to discharge, but also it goes around here, and that's the trace. See, it even says plus 15 volts all the way through here. So that's the important trace there, or this point here that we've got to connect to that pin. So two things, I can reflow this joint, and I can go under the board and reflow that one as well. Alright, so I added a bit more solder on here, didn't do a thing, went underneath, added a bundle onto that pin. There you can just see there's a bit more solder. It sucked up, just this one here, it sucked up quite a bit of solder, and then testing continuity, it's fixed it. So let's see what happens next. Imagine if that was the only problem, but I don't know, we'll see. And that just confirming. Beautiful sound from the positive there, going through to pin 16. Oops, yep, anyway, yep. 16 there, all good. I'm gonna put it back together, I guess. Okay, so it's mostly back together. A few more screws could go in, but earth screws in, all these wires from the transformer, main power, pre-wires, all plugged in. Board-to-board connectors are definitely, yep, plugged in good. Power back here, plugged in good. So now that we have continuity on that 15 volt rail, we're going to be feeding 15 volts into this. So one of the first things I'm going to want to do, assuming it doesn't just go bang, is check to see if we got proper power going into these ones, and start the process. So yeah, I've plugged in the cord. I'm gonna turn it on. So this is off. Yep, I'm gonna turn this on. so good. Nothing's exploding. Okay, I'm going to measure those capacitors. Hell yeah. So instead of having minus 13 volts across all of these, they now all have 15.2 volts positive. That's a really good thing. I'm going to start doing some of the... Oh shit, I'm going to just plug it in and see if I can play some music. Let's see what it'll take. Okay, I've got some music playing. Volume's already up. Nothing. Oh, I'm on B. Left. Oh. It works. There we go. Woo! So good. Both channels working fine. Yep, so that's the left right working great. Woo! Okay, I'm still scared because these capacitors have had a reverse voltage on them for some time. I don't know how long people have had this plugged in, trying to get it to work. Oh shit, but yeah, I'll just do a bit of research on that. And look, I don't want to have to pull this board. I do have a capacitor tester. I might be able to just probe it in there and make sure that the ESR hasn't gone up. I'm not too worried actually about all of the shmoo, the little bits that I saw there, like that one, because everything has bits of this on it. See, bits of flux. I mean, bits of flux everywhere. Like there's some there. There's no component there leaking. It's just, that's normal on this board. That little bit of stuff there, I don't know what that is, but still, that's one capacitor I'd like to test. Should be easy enough to get a probe in there to their little feet. You can see them overlapping over the sides there anyway. So, wow, I can't believe it. Class D amp. These things are complicated, and in the end, the only problem was this little header, pin number 16. Was, I don't know, it looked fine, but it needed to be soldered. So there we go. I guess the solder from the bottom of it hadn't come all the way through to the top layer to connect that top layer to, that's where the trace is coming out of it. So how did this thing ever work in the first place? I don't know. Yeah, that's weird. But it is minty. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a factory second or something. I don't know. Because all these screws, they were never even touched before. I can tell now that I've used some of them, but when taking this thing apart, all the screws, even underneath, none of them had a scratch. Or you know when you sometimes get the screwdriver and you miss it off the side or something, or everything was just brand new and mint. No one's taken a stab at this before. So, wow, cool. What a beautiful amp.